Is there a winter for AI, or is this a summer? Is this a spring for big pharma?
Yeah.
Where are we in this cycle?
Great question. So I think we're in the spring. Not quite summer yet, but I do believe we're starting to see that you have this curve in your mind, right, where things are sort of happening, you're putting a lot of effort, and it looks like this, and then you want it to kind of really take off. And I think we're right before that. And it's one of the reasons why I went from the sort of startup enabling pharma and biotech with AI tools and platforms to just go into pharma now. Let's see if we can do this. Pharmaceutical companies are responsible for the end-to-end process of discovering drugs, developing drugs, and getting it to patients, and even make sure that patients at some point have access to that. So it's that whole paradigm. So in my mindset, knowing and seeing what has come about in AI with developments like AlphaFold and what it could do potentially for structural biology, but biology in general, it was time. It was time to do this, bring it into a big pharmaceutical companies, and have this be integrated into that workflow end to end.
Yep. So COVID, March 2020, it started before that. Has something good come from this twilight zone that we've all lived through in terms of AI and pharma? And has anything been lost, other than so many lives in this moment in the work that you do?
I think that what COVID has shown us is possible is that if we really hone in on we want to solve this problem, this disease, using latest technological advancements from sequencing, and we were able to sequence the virus and learn what it does, to new modalities that, such as mRNA vaccines that allow us to then actually target what we need to and what we want to in the cell, to governments coming in action and saying, how can we produce this at scale, and make sure that everybody has access to us. It was the demonstration that this could be done, and this potentially could be done really, really quickly. I don't know if there is a loss, but I think what there is, okay, now that we've seen it done here, and many people could argue, well, this was a special case. It actually challenges us to now figure out how can we do it better, right? The onus on us is now how to leverage all of these tools, all of these capabilities to accelerate how we develop drugs for every potential disease out there.
Great. So part of your job title is genomics. February 2001, human genome race, someone won, I think.
Yeah.
People are like, well, we sequenced the human genome, but how's my life different? Will AI be a factor now? And how do you draw upon that milestone for the work that you do? Yeah,
why don't I just show a couple of things here. So it's not going to be AI by itself. So I really think it's the convergence of, you can talk about many things, but there are three things that come to my mind. One is the advancements in AI, and not just, now we have AI, we have ChatGPT, we beat AlphaGo back in, 5 years ago, 2015, but it's that we've been able to show what AI can do in biology. And I think the first really major example of this was AlphaFold and its ability to unravel complex biology. We gave it all this data, structures across every protein that we had data on, and we asked it, could you learn and could you actually predict the structure, not just of one protein, but every protein across the proteome? And what that showed is feed these machines enough data, it can actually start to learn patterns in biology that go beyond human intuition. And it was able to do this through a combination of the data that we gave it, as well as actually existing computational tools coming from evolutionary genetics, and the latest advancements that were applied in other areas, like attention mechanisms and transformers, being applied in this one case made it all come together so that, in my mind, we almost taught AlphaFold how to do something that was kind of emergent, right? And that's the opportunity of, okay, how can we take these tools and these methods, not just to unravel the structure of proteins, but to help us generate new molecules and quickly come up with new molecular designs, learn fundamental underlying biology, learn which patients we should give our drugs to as we enter clinical trials, learn better ways of even distributing our medicines to patients and getting to equity and better market access. That's the potential in AI. But AI alone isn't enough. I think the other thing we have to be cognizant of, as this has been happening, as AI has gotten better at learning from these data sets and getting to even more complex and unraveling biological questions, medicinal chemistry questions, it's the depth of data. So while all this is happening, yes, we sequenced the human genome 20 years ago, but since then, we've also now been able to do sequencing of every gene, so we can look at not just pockets of genes or fragments of genes, but whole genomes. RNA, so what's happening at the transcriptional level. And microarrays, again, came out around the same time. Well, that's nothing now. We can do DNA-seq, RNA-seq, sequence everything and look at that transcriptomic RNA levels, microRNA levels, protein levels, and now we're getting to single-cell resolution, better ways of phenotyping cells and organs, and the two of these things together with the AI, it's the convergence of these things that's hopefully going to allow us to understand the biology better, what's driving disease, and how to treat disease so we can hit the nodes of the disease exactly where we need to, and for the right patient. So the last leg of this that we can't forget, so there's the AI, the breadth and depth of data. The third, and all these things have been happening, some groups are working on the AI, some groups are working on the deep data, and then some groups are building the platforms, these new therapeutic modalities, which we didn't have 20 years ago. Editing our genes, perturbing things so that we can knock down the expression of a gene via siRNA, upregulating it via mRNA, even new ways of doing small molecules that can not only block the activity of something, but even degrade them. So we have an explosion of modalities. And my hope is that these three things together is what takes us from spring into summer.
Great. 3 questions, and then why don't you run through any of the slides?
Sure, yeah.
Drug discovery, patients, and women who want to be leaders in the space that you're in. Those are 3 questions.
Those are questions or statements?
No, just what's your thoughts on those? What do you want to get out to the world?
So the first one was drug discovery.
Drug discovery,
yeah. What do I want to get out to the world? So with drug, it is hard. The public needs to understand that. This is not for the faint of heart. I always like to say, harder than launching satellites into space, which we can do, so obviously it's harder, than reaching Mars, which we haven't done. But actually, not just reaching Mars, but imagine if the task was, can we get to every planet on our solar system? I still think developing drugs, the right drugs for the right patient that actually work, and all the way to the end where the patients can access them in the right way is harder than all of that.
And you're in big pharma.
Yeah.
The role that you play, I know you were at Novartis, you're in a new company I'm not going to mention because that'll make this complicated. But where were you always at the table in the role that you're in?
Yeah.
Are you now the center seat?
Yeah.
What's the power dynamic when you're in the meetings now? And how has it changed? Where's it going?
Yeah, great question. So for the longest time, I always felt as a data scientist, computational biologist, AI ML person, I was on the outside. The receiving end, okay, will you please collect this data for me? They might collect it, may not, whatever they gave me, and then we'd try to find ways to analyze it. And then finally people started collecting the data because they started to see what the tools could do. And then but these tools can work. This should be in your workflow. You should be using this every day to suggest new molecules, to do that. So part of what I was aiming to do, both in doing this within Novartis and where I currently am, was really that it's not enough to get the data. It's not enough to develop the tools, and even we can be so excited that these tools can predict things that couldn't before, but now it has to be part of the workflow. It has to be part of how the scientists and the clinicians do their discovery and development.
Great. All right, patients and then women.
Patients. Well, I was a patient myself, and I'm hugely grateful to this industry that saved my life, literally. And I'm hoping that we can save more lives with what we're doing. And I'm hoping one day that we're not just in, hey, we're saving lives because you collapse from heart attack and embolism, whatnot, but we're preventing a lot of diseases.
Yeah. Okay, helping women in this field.
Yeah.
Is it women friendly? What are some secrets that you want to tell anyone who's going to be watching this video?
I would say the pharmaceutical industry, biotech industry, from what I've heard, tends to be supportive of women. There is a place for us here. They actually want us here. They want to hear what we have to say. But there's always going to be, I think, challenges. And so just remember, you have a seat at the table. You're super important to driving this. And right now, different now than back to 20 years ago, is you'll just see a lot more of us there. So just reach out. We're there to help you. We want you there. We want more of you.
Great. And then I know you had prepared a few slides.
Sure.
Just to close us out.
Well, let's see. So this is the idea of where AI can play a role across the entire spectrum, from early discovery to preclinical to clinical, regulatory, and patients. And in my mind, if we can get the AI integrated across that entire workflow, end to end, then we have a shot of taking what is a 20-year endeavor, billion plus, and accelerating it for many, many diseases. And then one other thing to note. So this figure, that's DALL-E, but it was generated June of last year, 2022, before it was released to the public. So Peter Lee, who runs AI research at Microsoft, I needed a slide for this last slide I was giving. So I sent him the talk track, the paragraph of it. Then he sent it to his friend at OpenAI. And then they sent me back this. And the talk track was this idea that, this is not an AI-only endeavor. It is going to be humans and AI working together. That's what it generated. Isn't that amazing? And that was June of last year, so before all of the press had come out. And this idea that AI can actually generate and learn and get to emergent properties, that's really what excites me. Can it get to learning the emergent properties of biology and human disease? Oh my God, that would be amazing. And then I said to it, and hopefully we get there long before we take our first steps on Mars.
Well, thank you for coming today.
Yeah.
I know you now work at a big multinational, and we had a lot of health talks, and I hope they collaborate with you and good things come
Absolutely.
about as a result of you taking time
Yeah.
to be part of this networking community. Keep up the great work, and I'm so glad for your example.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Iya.